Alright guys, with the DCEU officially coming to an end, with The Flash officially being out now, yes, we still have Blue Beetle and Aquaman, but there's still some confusion with Blue Beetle, and I just don't think anybody really cares about the Aquaman film. I think it is time that we do a DCEU casting list. I'm gonna go through all of the characters, if not most of the characters in the DCEU, and put them in a tier list of how good I think the acting choices were. And mainly my decision is going to come down to the person that was specifically chosen and what they brought to the character. A lot of people always have this misconception that you have to be exactly the same as the comic book. If you look like the character ripped from a comic book, if you act and bring things to the table straight from the comic book, that's great. But sometimes it's always good and fresh to bring your own take to these characters that end up being, hey, better than the comic books. So let's go through this list and see what we got. Okay, when looking at this list, there are a couple of characters who aren't on it right now, and most specifically, some of the Suicide Squad characters from James Gunn Suicide Squad, and also a couple of characters in Shazam! Fury of the Gods. When I finish off this series, I might make a smaller tier list just for those characters so I can show you what I think of them. As of right now, as long as we get to some of the mains, that is what is really important. So we got a lot of sections here. We got Supreme, Great, Good, Okay, Poor, Bad, and NA for Not Applicable. There are a couple of characters in here that are really alienized that I don't really think it matters who would have played them, if they even have a voice in general. So when we get to them, we will put them in the NA position. So starting off with, can't remember his name, but Black Manta's father. Good actor, okay performance, because it's quite forgettable. It's really not that important. At the end of the day, you are just focusing on Black Manta. You're not focusing on his father all that much, other than the fact he gives an excuse to Black Manta to hate Aquaman. He simply worked for the purpose of another character. Next, you have Aquaman himself. I'm going to put him in good. The reason I'm not going to put him in great or supreme like I know many people would is simply because I like Jason Momoa as Aquaman. I think he's a solid choice as Aquaman. I think he fits perfectly for that version of Aquaman, and in that sense, you would put him in supreme. In my opinion, I think he's a good option. I think there's a couple of things I would have changed, and there's a couple things about his acting style that doesn't fully work for me, but overall, it is a good choice. Next, we have Deathstroke. It's Joe's version. We're putting this in great. That costume would be in supreme. Maybe him acting as Deathstroke would be in supreme. The reason why I'm going to put him in great right now is because we simply didn't see enough of him. But the fact that I'm already putting him in great, and the only thing we really got was an end credit scene, just goes to show that if we got that Ben Affleck Batman movie, I think he would have killed it as Deathstroke, and I think we would be putting him in supreme if that was the case. J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon, I'm going to put him in great as well. Once again, only saw him for a short amount of time, and he already killed it as the character. If you want to argue good, that's fine. If you want to argue supreme, that's fine too. I just think I needed to see more of him once again in Ben Affleck's Batman movie to put him in supreme. But because we're never going to get that, or very likely not to get that, he's going to go in great for now, but that just shows how good of a job he did in his small performance. Then you have one of the most forgettable Suicide Squad characters, as if many of those characters aren't forgettable to begin with. It's Adam Beach as Slipknot. This is a perfect balance between okay and poor. I'm just gonna put him in okay because he didn't act him poorly. He, as an actor, didn't do a terrible job. It's just okay. Rosie Perez as Renee Montoya. I'm sorry, that's going into bad. I'm not a fan of Perez as an actress, just me personally, and I think her acting as Renee was so forced and completely cringe. Everything about it, did not like it. They could have gone somewhere completely different with that character. Once again, in my opinion, there's your first bad. Next up, we have Harry Lennox. And the question is, what do we do for him here? Is this a character of Martian Manhunter, or is this the American General Swanwick? I'm gonna combine both as one person. I think this is another great choice. He has the demeanor of a Martian Manhunter. He sounds like him and even looks like him. And he has the demeanor of a professional, well-respected army general. He's been there since the beginning. He was a staple for Zack Snyder, and he did a good job in all of his performances. Next, you have the old King of Atlantis. I'm just gonna put him in okay. Pretty forgettable moment. I don't even think he has any lines to begin with. He serves a purpose to propel the story. There is no character development there. It's hard to really judge something like that, so I'm just gonna put him in okay. Now we have Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie, and here's your first Supreme. I think she is one of the best castings that DC has ever made, and I think the thing about Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn is she was capable of capturing every corner of her character. Accent, attitude, laugh, just everything. The one thing that hasn't been done really well, or even if it was done, it wasn't done to a full extent, and it's not her fault. This is writing's fault. This is producing and directing's fault. We never got to see her with Joker on a full-term scale. If that did happen, it would be interesting to see how she would now translate her Harley to being the backup to Joker, but Harley on her own worked. Next, you had Randall Park, who played a doctor or scientist in Aquaman. I really do not even remember this. It clearly has not been important for the future. I like Randall Park as an actor. I think he's a pretty cool guy. I'm just gonna put him in okay. I think it's kind of unfair to say he would be bad or poor or great or good because I can't even remember the scene he was in. Maybe I should even put him in not applicable, but for now, I'll just keep him in okay. Naomi Watts as Adlana, and I'm gonna put her in good. I don't think there's much bad about her. I don't think she's overly amazing at the character, but I think it was a good direction to go in. Callan Mulvey as Anatoly Knyazov, and I think this is technically supposed to be KG Beast. I'm going good. I think it's a good option. I could even say great, to be honest with you. I might eventually move him up to great, but he is a good option for like a hired henchman, kind of like this secretive mercenary bounty hunter. This thing I think is from Aquaman. I'm just going to put it in not applicable. Don't even know who plays that character. Now we got a big one, Jared Leto's Joker. I'm going to put him in okay. Now, here's my reasoning behind this casting choice. Would I have gone with Jared Leto even before what I knew he would have brought to the table? No, I wouldn't have. I'm not a huge fan on where they brought the character, how he acted it, how they wrote him. Now, here's the thing. If we only had Suicide Squad to look at him from, then this would be going in poor to bad. If we only had Zack Snyder's Justice League, this would be going in good. Because we have both, I'll split the difference, put it in okay. Doomsday, you can't really peg this as too much acting. I mean, you could if you really wanted to look deep into it. I'm just gonna put it in not applicable. Abdul Mateen as Black Manta, I'm gonna put this in great. I think he was a great option for Black Manta. Even though I'm not looking forward to Aquaman 2, frankly, I think they should just cancel the movie, since they probably won't. When that movie comes out, and if he's a big part of it, I hope he does a good job, because I liked him in the first one, and I would like to see more of him moving forward. Not gonna lie, I'm a little peeved that the photo here is Justice League Steppenwolf, but we'll bypass that. It's just Steppenwolf. I'm gonna put him in great. Honestly, I think anybody could have gotten this role and they would have done something with their voice to make it sound a little deeper and more alien. But I do think Ciarán Hinds does do something to this character that offers a lot of emotion, especially when it comes to fear. And staying within that same category is Chris Pine as Steve Trevor. We're gonna put him in great as well. Would I have preferred if Chris Pine was someone a little bigger in the DC universe? Like, could I have seen him pull off a Hal Jordan Green Lantern? 110%. But he took Steve Trevor, he acted Steve Trevor well, and it's how I would picture Steve Trevor in any other type of movie. Dolph Lundgren as King Nereus, I'm gonna put him in good as well. Nothing over the top, nothing terrible. I think it's a good choice. It's a good way of getting one of these older but classical action adventure actors from back in the day into a DC film. Scoot McNairy as Wallace Keefe, I'm gonna put him in great because he really hammers home how much hatred he has for Superman and how he really hates Superman, and now how the world has effectively changed because of what happened in Metropolis. His pain and suffering is really felt, and if there's anything you can say about a good actor, it's that you can feel what the character goes through, and he did that. Joel Kinnaman as Rick Flag, gonna put him in good. Once again, there are other actors who can do this role and probably do it just as good as him, but he's not a bad choice in any way. Actually, quite frankly, I like Joel Kinnaman, and he offers a solid portrayal of Rick Flag. Mark Strong as Dr. Sivana, I'll put this in good as well, but Mark Strong is the focus here. Would I have preferred him as Sinestro? Yeah, 100%, but his second go as a DC character, I think this was a good place. Amber Heard as Mara. She, of course, is not a good person. I'm going to separate the art from the artist, but even in saying that, I'm going to put her in bad. I just don't think she's a good actress at all. And I don't think she did Mara any justice. When I look at Amber Heard at first when Aquaman was being made, is it a solid fit for Mara? Yeah, her appearance is fine, but her acting chops don't cut it. When I watched that Aquaman film, I swear half the time it's like she was reading off of a teleprompter. Cooper Andrews as Victor Vasquez, who plays the father to Billy Batson and all the other children, quite forgettable. I don't really care. He did an okay job. It's nothing overly important, and it wasn't anything overly terrible. Tamora Morrison as Aquaman's father. I'm going to put this in great. And here's why it's going to go above Aquaman. The fact that they decided to go with this type of Aquaman, Tamora fits that mold perfectly, and his on-screen connection with Jason Momoa was captured very well. Okay, the guy who played Zaz in Birds of Prey, here comes your first pour. It's really not that great. It's not how I would picture myself writing Zaz and making Zaz. There are times in the movie where I feel, oh, there's Zaz. But I would say about 80-85% of the film, I'm left feeling like it could have been so much better. We deserved better, so it's a pour for him. Karen Fukuhara, who plays Katana, awesome choice. She's so good in The Boys, by the way. But for her presentation as Katana, I'm actually putting it in great. We deserved to see so much more from her. But from what we saw from her in that movie, she did a damn good job, a great job. Here's another controversial one. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I swear he is all over the spectrum. Some people would say supreme. Some people would say great. Some people would say bad. Some people would say okay. He's all over the place. I am going to put him in good. And here's why. I think Jesse Eisenberg has that smug acting ability of being a privileged CEO. I think there are many times in Batman vs. Superman where you see the natural Lex Luthor hatred toward the Man of Steel. But then there are times where he's a little too Riddler for my liking. He is very specifically playing a version of Lex Luthor in comic books where he looked and acted the way he did. I would have liked to see what Jesse Eisenberg was going to bring to the table with the now bald Lex Luthor. The way I feel for Jason Momoa's Aquaman is the way I feel for Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. I think there are moments where I'm feeling it, and then there are slightly other moments where I'm not, but overall, it's a good representation for what they were going for. The woman who plays Dr. Poison in Wonder Woman, I'll put her in good as well. I do think there could have been other people out there who could have done her role as well, but for what she brought in that movie, it was executed well. Ben Affleck's Batman, that's going straight up into S. One of the best Batman castings of all time. This is a situation that you can look at Ben Affleck and then you can look at art and comic panel representations of the character and say, holy crap, that is comic accurate Batman. I think Ben Affleck brought everything to the table in what you expect of an older Batman who's a little more grumpy, a little more miserable, and who has a little bit more hatred inside of them. Although he also executed it perfectly when that Batman woke up, snapped out of it, and realized he had to return to his old self. Freddy, or Captain Marvel Jr., if you want. I like Jack Dillon as young Freddy. I like Adam Brody as the Captain Marvel Jr. version of him. I'm actually gonna put these options in great. And to be honest with you, I think he's the best part of that Shazam 2 movie. Robin Wright, who plays Antiope, I think her name is. I'm gonna put her in great. There's something about her character I feel that when Patty made this movie, that character was specifically written in mind for Robin Wright. And I feel like if Robin Wright couldn't do it and they had to go somewhere else, it wouldn't feel the same. So her acting ability with the way they wrote the character, I think it's a great choice. Ray Fisher's Cyborg, I'm gonna slide him in great as well. Of course, when you watch the Justice League version, he's probably like an okay to a poor, but when I watch Zack Snyder's Justice League, it is a great casting choice. Another alien Aquaman character with an acting presentation I don't care about, so not applicable. Will Smith as Deadshot. I'm gonna put him in good. I actually want to put him in great or supreme. There are just moments where I can see Will Smith being Will Smith, although I would have liked to see more of him. I don't understand why they just gave up on some of these characters, but that's Warner Brothers for you. Alright, the guy who plays Killer Croc, one of my most disappointing characters in the DCU. I'm gonna go ahead and put him in poor. It's not fully his fault, but with the design comes the very specific way they chose to write him. Just wasn't a fan of it. Completely forgettable, and not just forgettable in a way that you could land it in okay. Forgettable in a way that, for me, I don't want to remember that version of Killer Croc. All right, now you got a little alien creature from, I believe, Shazam. Not applicable. Here's another interesting one, Ares. This could go all over the place. I'll put him in good. I think some of the dialogue they wrote for him and how he managed to portray it on screen was good as well. I just wasn't overly a fan of how they captured him at the end of the movie, which is what keeps me from putting him any higher. Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent, another controversial situation here. I'm gonna put him in great though. I think he did a fantastic job with the direction that this Jonathan Kent was supposed to direct Clark as a young boy into a young man. Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Huntress. Unfortunately, I'm gonna put her in okay. I think it's actually a really good acting choice. But when it comes to what was delivered to me through the acting and through the story of her character, it wasn't enough for me to sink my teeth into it. I want to put her in good or even great, but for now, I gotta do okay. Russell Crowe as Jor-El, I'm gonna slide him up into Supreme. Every single time I watch Man of Steel, I always end up liking his Jor-El more and more and more. Not only was he casted well, but he delivered the dialogue given to him with so much heart of Krypton, and I loved it. All right, guys, I'm gonna stop here for now and then eventually release part 2 for you guys in the next couple of days. Hit me in the comments below what some of your favorite acting choices were for some of these characters and where you would put them on the spectrum that I've created from supreme to bad. But that is all I have for you on this one, everyone. So until next time, I will talk to you all very soon.